Hello there, folks, and welcome back to another episode of our venture in the visual novel If My Heart Had Wings Flight Diary. In the last episode, things were really starting to look up between Aoi and Kotori, but unfortunately, even after purchasing Kotori a new outfit, which happened to be the jeans and the particular shirt that he was looking at, and even talking through a few things within their own relationship, Kotori had started to feel a little bit uneasy and was even in the apologizing phase of the recent argument. However, Aoi shared that he unfortunately, through unintentional means, was eavesdropping on Izuka and Kotori's conversation while he was looking for her. And that upset Kotori significantly, even to the point where she almost wanted to basically bring Aoi to a state of deletion. But through some means of trying to reason with Kotori, Aoi was able to calm her down through Kotori's, of course, participation in that regard. And as they talked through everything, Aoi mentioned something that he himself didn't really want to talk about. And Kotori demands that he speaks of it. And that's where we left off last time, so let's find out what it is that Aoi wanted to discuss that he didn't want to, but he is choosing to discuss with Kotori. And let's hope that Kotori's comprehension overrides her emotions. We'll see. But that is one big lesson to learn, folks. If we're going to communicate effectively, our comprehension has to be correct. All right, here we go. Alrighty. What do you got to say, Aoi? To be honest, I'm terrified. I'm not sure if I can actually chase after my dream.
いきなり何?
After graduation, you seem to think that I'm going to have it easy. Kotori looked genuinely confused.
どうして? やりたいことがはっきりしてるんだから、そこに向かってまっすぐ進めばいいじゃない。
I couldn't hold back the sigh.
何よそのため息。もしかしてバカにされてる?
Kotori, you need to stop assuming that everyone's making fun of you. He's sighing because you are not taking the time to really understand him. That's what's frustrating him. You won't be there.
Huh?
You won't be there when I'm working.
当たり前じゃない、そんなの。
Her mocking tone set my nerves on edge. See, that's the thing about it, Kotori. While you're being so anxious about being mocked, you're actually mocking other people in the process. Do you remember how it felt when we all worked towards riding the morning glory together?
もちろんよ。
Back then, you were the only one with your sights dead set on the sky. Most people just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and eventually they look up to find their goal in reach. But you're different. You just took off, and you never took your eyes off the clouds. Kotori was always the one aiming for the very top.
それってさ、私がバカなだけじゃないの？そそっかしい性格なの、よく知ってるでしょ。
It doesn't have to stay that way, Kotori. It doesn't have to stay that way. Kotori said it like she didn't want to believe it herself. Well, maybe a little. Look, little sis, let me tell you something. If we're gonna get better, we gotta be teachable. And sometimes it's gonna require us sacrificing some traits about ourselves that we want to keep. But if those traits are just hindering us, what's the point in keeping them? But most people never set their sights on truly big goals. If they do, they end up getting blinded by the intensity of it. We usually think of dreams as goals you can't actually achieve. For those of us back in that garage, flying the morning glory truly was that, a dream.
でも、あの頃みんな同じ気持ちで頑張ってたじゃない。
because you were there.
わかんない。
The only reason all of us could stay focused was because you were there, staring straight at the goal. Kotori's expression grew perplexed, as if everything she had ever known was wrong. At some point in life, folks, that does happen to all of us. The only word for it was astonishment.
でも私もみんながいなきゃ無理だったし。
Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Yeah. If any one of us hadn't been there, it would not have worked. We had built those wings together. I'm sure that Agaha would say the same thing, but if you had not been there, we would have been fine just test flying the wings we made. That alone would have been a pretty big deal for students to achieve.
だってモーニンググローリーの写真見たでしょ。あれだって OB の人たちが実際に飛んで撮影してきたのに。
Yeah, it was amazing to think about what people did before us.
ありえない。
You could tell that she couldn't accept what I said. That was the kind of girl Kotori Habane was. She honestly thought it was natural to have an unwavering focus on a single goal. In some ways, this was her weakness as well. Izuka said the same thing, didn't she? The only people who could get there are the ones who believe in their dreams and chase them. That was the reminiscing quote. Anyone can have a dream, but to actually believe enough to chase it, that's difficult. To be honest, you're the one who led us there. You led us to the corridor of clouds. Kotori stood there, her mouth half open, looking utterly stunned. She still could not believe what I had just said. I turned to face her. I'm not at all sure I can chase down my dream without you there by my side. I had wanted to keep my worries a secret from Kotori, just like she'd wanted to keep the talk she had with Izuka a secret. But that's exactly why I had to tell her, to keep us even. It's not so much as really to keep you even, but I think I understand what he's saying. If you're going to want your partner to be vulnerable with you, you got to be vulnerable with your partner too. So that's one way to look at it. But that's ultimately the concept here is the two of you should be vulnerable enough to actually converse with each other about these difficult topics so the two of you can both grow together. But see, that only works with trust. So clearly there's a lack of trust between the two of them. But also the two of them, as they're growing, they're experiencing this stuff for the first time. So it's good to have some type of mentoring, positive mentoring, mind you, and reasonable mentoring, and also tell it to you straight mentoring, not just any kind of mentor.
だったらやっぱり一緒に大学行けばいいじゃない。
But don't you see, that's no good. This is my dream. And
それに
no, never mind. This isn't the time for that conversation. Kotori looked in wonder at me, blushing and shuddering. It's just how much I love you. I stood up straight, wondering how she would take it. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Kotori didn't believe me now. But instead, she just hung her head.
でも私にはその夢さえないんだもん。
And that's the problem, isn't it? Is that what you're worried about? Dreams are supposed to be about a job that you want to do. That's what a lot of people seem to think.
違うの？
Of course not. If that was true, then it would mean most adults don't have any dreams at all. What a sad world that would be. People work so they can use the rest of their time to chase after their dreams. For my father, work was work, but his real passion was photography. When he was transferred to the countryside, he was still happy because the fall leaves were so beautiful.
そうなんだ。そんなこと考えたことなかった。
That's why it's important for us to converse with each other, but also present ourselves as teachable, not gullible, but teachable. I imagined one reason she thought like that was her disability. Kotori had an incredible obsession with independence that she wasn't even aware of. She was fixated on living life on her own, without any help at all. So when she saw Aga and I choosing paths that would make us more independent, she felt somehow inferior. What is it you really want to do?
やりたいこと。
Kotori was lost in thought. It almost irritated me seeing her like that. Of course she had something. There's gotta be lots of things. I took the envelope out of my pocket. I wanted to show you this after we got back home.
何これ。私が書いた退学届。まだ持ってたんだ。
I'd forgotten about it too. It was stuck in the back of my desk drawer. I'd found it when I was checking to make sure I had not forgotten anything after the move. She stood frowning in front of the envelope, like she'd suddenly left back in time. Do you remember when you wrote this? Kotori nodded, though it looked like she didn't really want to think about it.
やりたいこともなくて、友達も一人もいなくて、学校辞めて東京の家に帰ろうとしてた。今とそう違わないかも。
That was when I met you. Kotori nodded. It seemed almost nostalgic. But even back then, there was something you wanted to do, wasn't there? You read Izuka's notebook and wanted to fly in a glider. But you decided you could never do it, so you ignored your feelings and decided to quit school. I could not ride anymore, so I ran off back home. I sensed some kind of connection, and I started to fall for you. I'd been a bit meddlesome in Kotori's business, but that had been our start.
あの時、葵に止められなかったら、きっととっくの昔に学校を辞めて、家に帰ってたね。
So look at where you were then and where you are now. Don't you think you've come a long way?
前に
Back then, you had all these suppressed desires, and you've made them come true one by one. We've made a glider and flown it. She'd made friends, revived the club after it had been dissolved, and of course flown the Morning Glory. She'd also managed to pet the scary neighborhood dog, cleared a super hard video game, and made her mother's croquettes. And not to mention, she was able to stand on her own two legs again. Isn't the fact that we are standing here, holding hands on a date, proof of that? That is something that we should take a look at too. We do have dreams and we do have goals, and sometimes if we don't accomplish that one goal, sometimes we get lost in that what may be perceived as failure. But let's not forget all of the milestones that we have actually achieved along the way, because all of those oftentimes are necessary to get to the next point. We're not going to be perfect, but that's okay, because even though we're not capable of perfection, we are capable of progress. When she'd gone to America for her surgery, she'd told me,
怖いけど頑張ってくるね。
yeah, growth pain can be discomforting, but it's necessary.
私やっぱり葵と手をつないでデートしたいから。
Kotori stared at our hands like that. Then she looked down at her feet, standing firm on the ground.
これ書いた頃の私にこんな未来像を語ってもきっと信じないわね。
And if you told Asa, Harumi, and the others what you were like back then, they'd never believe you either. I said jokingly, and made her giggle.
夜はだと思ったって言いそうだけど。
Of course, Yoru kind of puts on a front at times. She's a borderline soon. And somewhat of a kudere. I let go of her hand and put the envelope in it. You haven't changed. Not really. You just kept going. Life is more than just finding the work that you want to do. Running away is no reason to go to university, is it? Kotori stared vacantly at the withdrawal letter. Proof that she'd once tried to run away.
システム工学の勉強は私がやっと見つけた自信を持ってできることだから。
It might not be a dream, but life was not that simple. It was one step toward a future Kotori could make through hard work. Think about those old guys in the movie we watched. They kept chasing a dream even after they'd retired from work.
あんな風になっちゃっていいのかな。
As long as there's progress. The old folks in the movie had their problems, but there was something appealing about it. And when things seemed to be calming down... Of course, it had to be the stomach. Stomach growls ruined the mood. Not mine, but Kotori's.
あう、お腹すいた。
I never would have guessed. Well, dreams won't fill your belly.
やだ、そんな結論。
Why? Isn't it good to sound wise and also be wise? Come on, folks, make up your mind here. Kotori said, clearly upset that our important conversation was being superseded by mere physicality. And yet physicality would not wait.
真面目な話してるときに。
Well, it's kind of the wrong place to even be doing that kind of seriousness in the first place. We hadn't really finished yet either. We can keep talking after lunch. Might as well do it when you got the right amount of energy. Just make sure you don't eat too much or you might enter a food coma. But while they're going to take a break, we're also going to take a break here and probably get some lunch or maybe some dinner or whatever type of meal when you've possibly have watched this, or maybe even for those who have before have watched this. That probably didn't make any sense, but that's okay. I'm hungry right now anyway. So with that, I want to thank everyone for watching this video this time around. If you liked what you saw, maybe consider leaving a like. And if you'd like to see more, want to check out the rest of my channel, and if you haven't already, I encourage you to consider subscribing and also activate the notification so you can be informed of the next productions to be released. And until next time, happy mixing, everyone.